Hey, we're live.
Hey, what's up, Yusef?
So this is going to be kind of interesting and awkward for me because we're talking about two different subjects mainly, but one of them I am completely just completely out in the woods about. I've never had any. I don't know anything about. Well, let me back up. What do I know about? I know about Bitcoin. I know about cryptocurrency. I know nothing about the cannabis marijuana industry, and it's a very interesting conversation for me to have. And this is something that I'm using to kind of expand my horizons because I've never done anything like that. But before we even go back that far, tell us who you are and what you do and why you're so awesome and how we became friends.
Well, I don't know about the awesome part, but we definitely became friends through cryptocurrency. My name is Santiago Restrepo. I am the COO of Green North. We are a cannabis business consultancy firm operating out of Bogota, Colombia, catching in on the hype of medical cannabis around the world, and based out of LATAM and helping people try to understand the plant, understand the business models behind it, and access to this new economy. And this is basically what I do. So you're in good hands, man. Every day I talk to people that know very little about the industry, but they're curious. CBD, cannabis have become buzzwords lately on the internet, and people just have a growing interest in this. And part of my job is kind of be an ambassador to this whole thing, and a teacher, and try to explain to people what it's all about, what the opportunities are, and where this might lead.
Wow.
We actually I met you through a WhatsApp group, which is pretty cool. You've been running this little community of crypto investors, and I was heavily invested into crypto a couple of years back. I was lucky enough to get in at probably 2,800, which is not a bad starting point when you look at it now. It's not one of the early adapters, but I just really enjoyed the kind of pointers, signals, and your opinions regarding where crypto is going and how it might affect the world. And we've been trying to get in this conversation for a little while now. I'm really glad we got down to it.
Yeah, me too. But that's the sign of a successful man is often he's just busy.
It shouldn't be, though.
We're just two of those guys that we're always doing something. We're always on the move. But you and I have had a couple of short back and forths, and you said you got into crypto 2008? You said.
Yeah, it was probably a couple of years back. I think it was 2000. Introduced to the whole concept of it through my brother-in-law, Jesus, who's a tech entrepreneur. And I've heard about Bitcoin before, just the buzzwords and stuff. But he's the guy that really took the time to explain to me what crypto's all about. I was just starting to understand my political and economic alliance as a libertarian and as a capitalist. So it really got really exciting for me. And he told me it was a good entry point. It was at an all-time high at the moment, but I kind of believed him, and I'm glad I did.
You just said a buzzword, and I'm glad that we kind of have the time to go into this. You just said libertarian.
I did.
Give me your definition of libertarian, because I don't want to assume anything.
Okay, well, the shortest definition I can give you is I'm pretty fiscally conservative and socially liberal. So what that means, I believe government should be small. I believe capitalists and companies should be allowed to roam around and develop free markets. And I think that's for the benefit of all. I don't believe forced taxation is a good way to go about building an economy. And I believe in personal freedom above all. That's my greatest value, and that's what I uphold at the highest regard at the moment. So I'm all for it, and that relates a lot to cannabis, and it relates a lot to personal choice and to freedom. And I think that's what being a libertarian is. And as with any word, I think the definition is pretty ample, and people should be allowed to call themselves libertarian if they feel they fall on any part of that spectrum, which is always a debate, because when you go and talk to people that say, and you tell them you're libertarian, they'll start hassling you and what's it all about and stuff, and that's not libertarian. And I think that goes against the very essence of what I believe that is.
Well, what I won't do is tell you what a libertarian is or is not. Are you familiar with a logical fallacy called no true Scotsman?
I am not. Please go into it, man. I'm eager to learn.
It's an appeal to purity. It's an informal fallacy that says to protect a universal generalization, they'll say, well, in Scotland, we don't put sugar in our oats. And a guy from Scotland raises his hand and says, well, I'm from Scotland and I put sugar in my oats. And someone says, well, you're no true Scotsman. You know, it's someone attacking who and what you are.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Matter of fact, as one of the things I'm going to do, I will put a no true Scotsman fallacy in the links so that people can get one of the things I love doing is, you know, sometimes I have to explain what we're talking about, but I'm going to put a no true Scotsman explanation in there. So what I would say to you is this, though, is with the libertarianism, I'll tell you what I've seen from my side, and this has nothing to do with marijuana or any of the other things that we're going to talk about today. But what I find is that libertarianism is often enjoyed and bandied about by people who enjoy a level of security the average citizen of the world, not anyone's country, does not enjoy.
That is very cool.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm one of those people that I'm fortunate enough to live in, well, some people might regard Colombia as a third world country, but my personal experience within the country is a very first world experience. I have access to all the comforts, all the benefits rich people enjoy, I guess, and the 1%. Yet again, I don't believe that's an impediment for me to have an allegiance to a certain idea or a certain utopia that I would look forward to and that I believe would be useful and a good way to live.
I agree with that, but libertarianism, well, you said no forced taxation. That's one of the first places that I always kind of cringe because I'm trying to understand, can you give me an example of people who voluntarily tax themselves?
I think there are plenty of situations, like in my own personal opinion, like I'd rather have a tax form where I can sign off on the issues and on the concepts that I believe are good and not have a secluded group of people that have their own personal and economic interests deciding for all of us what to do with the money. So I don't believe in this idea of a group of politicians getting around, taking everybody's money and then deciding what is it going to be the best use for that. So I believe in collective intelligence, and I believe in if all of us are allowed to choose where our money goes to and what our contribution is, I think we would probably do a better job at distributing that wealth. That is a very questionable affirmation, for sure. And I think there are a lot of things that could be questioned around that, and it has not been put to the real test of time. So I'm very open as well to be proven wrong as well.
I don't want to get lost in the weeds. That's what I think. Because we're not here, you know, what we will do is, and I have some friends that I would love to bring on to a panel discussion with you about libertarianism, not necessarily an against or for, but so that we can all kind of hash out what we see, because there is no political system that's the greatest political system. There is no system of taxation that is the correct system of taxation. It's all simply a matter of where you fall, generally speaking, on the economic spectrum. What you find over and over again in my travels throughout the world is, you know, your wallet dictates your philosophies, it dictates your pocketbook, it dictates your everything.
That is very correct. If my situation, my personal, social, and economic situation might be different, I might have a very different political and philosophical allegiance, and I don't deny that.
And see, that's where I give you kudos. At least you say, I understand that my allegiances would be different if my financial situation was different. I've come across so many people. I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for many years as well when I had my financial practice. I was a financial professional there. And you would run across these complete just people who live in a very different reality who would talk about how everyone should be libertarian. I'm thinking it's hard to be libertarian when the government as it is gives you very little. And if you do become libertarianism and it becomes one of those every man or woman for him or herself, you'll be left with nothing.
Ah, for sure. And I think there are two different aspects of it. And I think the economic aspect of it is definitely more open to debate. I would try to define my libertarianism as in the word liberty, which I think is the root word for the term. And it's just about freedom, man. It's about being able to roam around the world. It's being able to do what you want with your own personal self, take your responsibility for your actions. That doesn't mean going crazy and doing whatever the hell you want with disregard for everyone else. It just means that you should have the freedom. You only live once, or at least I believe this. And you should have the freedom to explore the world and that vital experience as you wish, without having anyone telling you what you can put in your body, what you can't put in your body. So your rights go just as far as where other people's rights begin. And I believe that. And as long as you're not harming anyone, then why the hell does anyone else have to have a say in that?
And I think that's the trick there, isn't it? That if you're not harming anyone, because I intersected with libertarianism because I have a lot of friends who are professional athletes and amateur athletes, and they're big into steroids. And I tried steroids a couple of times, and it's interesting because steroids did exactly what they said they were going to do. But if you're not a professional athlete, why would you need anything more than a simple TRT dose? Well, that's what I found. Because I use TRT and it's fine, and it's lovely. But when I was on steroid cycles, I did that a couple of times every, 8 or 9 months. I would try one just for experimental sake. And it was one of those situations where it's like, well, wait a minute. If anything did go wrong, who was I harming other than myself? And if I recognize that, and this is part of the reason I'm talking to you, how can I look at someone else who does something else that only hurts themselves? I think I have to disassociate it with the legal concepts that I grew up with. I grew up as a straight edge kid, stayed totally away from all drugs, all narcotics, don't even drink alcohol to this day, because the world I grew up in, I had parents that instilled in me young. Anything that puts you anywhere in contact with any of those things could get you killed or imprisoned.
That is I had a similar upbringing, and to be honest, my first experimentations with narcotics and psychotropic substances, I was very scared to do it. And the first time I tried marijuana, I did it very, very cautiously, and I did not have a good experience because I came from that same background. But then as time grew by and I developed a more individual sense of thinking and experimenting through life, I realized that for me, that particular path was just a bit too constrictive, and I wanted to experiment and I wanted to live other experiences. Now that I've done that, it's funny you say you don't drink alcohol. I'm actually, from Monday, I started doing a sober October kind of month with a couple of friends because I just felt like it's been a long time since I've been completely sober for a long time, and I just want to reconnect with that experience as well. So it's just the freedom to roam from one place to another, what I really cherish.
Did you do that out of a sense of you may have had a problem with drinking, or did you just simply decide, I'm done, I don't want to do that anymore?
I don't think it was a problem. Like, I'm highly functional, and I think social drinking is a big part of my job, or it has been from the way I look at it, because I do a lot of business meetings and I do a lot of socializing and stuff like that. But I was just like wondering, like, hey man, it's been a really, really long time since I've been a month without having any alcohol, and I want to see what I can feel like. Maybe I can feel better. I'm definitely more concerned about my health now that I'm 33. And once you're young and you're in your 20s, you feel like nothing really affects you, but you hit a certain stage in your life that you feel things are starting to take a toll on you. And I want to explore different ways to live my life. And I guess my take on it is, the less external shit you need to be happy and to be complete, then the better you are. So I'm trying to explore that avenue as well. Not that I feel like I'm going to quit drinking or quit everything I enjoy doing just for the sake of it, but I just like to have a month and see how that goes.
That's pretty insightful.
Well, maybe a couple of days of not drinking has brought that upon as well. It's also being complemented with a bit of trying to, the thing is, when you're drinking and when you're socially drinking and stuff, you lose a lot of time and you lose a lot of energy that I like to invest in other things, just trying to get started on a bit of meditation, trying to be more disciplined on my workouts, on my nutrition. And I think alcohol is definitely not the best ally for willpower and to go about these things.
That I would agree with. I know that even a lot of my friends who will often say, hey, I've never had a problem with alcohol. Once they start taking their health seriously, once they start lifting weights or training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all that, it just has to go. They said there's no real way to reconcile those.
I think I agree. It depends on the kind of level you want to be on, but what my take on that is, I think definitely when you start doing this kind of sober month and stuff like that, it's a bit of a high task to pretend to quit all these things and leave a void behind. So what I'm really looking forward to is just filling up all that time and energy I've been invested in drinking and socializing and stuff, and just devoting it to myself, more reading and stuff. And I think it will be productive. I don't see how being just clear-headed for a month anything wrong could come from that.
Let's cut the foreplay. What is did you find an intersection between cryptocurrency and working specifically in the marijuana business?
I was thinking about that before we got into this conversation, and I think the intersection I found is me and my business partner, who's an Israeli who's living in Colombia recently. We've been trying to get rich quick for 10 years. So we've been looking for all sorts of work and scams and things, and just trying to maximize our profit in as little time as possible. And I think cryptocurrency definitely had that appeal, right? And when you saw people mooning and Lambos and all this language, that definitely had an appeal. And I thought there might be some truth to that. And then when I saw the opportunity to come into a very new space with a lot of investment appetite and stuff like that, I thought that this would be a good opportunity as well. And it has certain similarities, though both things are a bit on the margins of society. They're in kind of a gray area legally. They appeal to people that have a high risk of investment. So I think there's a lot of intersections regarding the two industries. And I think the two will definitely complement each other. And there's a lot of potential into integrating crypto and blockchain and traceability into the cannabis space, for sure.
Wow. Well, because for me, cryptocurrency represented, I've always had people who generally, they're people who don't even understand what cryptocurrency is, say, well, this is what I heard, is that it is something criminals and miscreants and ne'er-do-wellers use. And what I said to them is, I suspect that's true, just like cash. I don't suspect that there's going to be a higher percentage of people using cryptocurrency to do bad things or to hide dirty money than there was using just straight general cash.
I agree, man. For me, it's just the same as a knife. A kitchen knife or whatever the hell. You can use it for cooking. You can use it for chopping something. You can use it to stab someone. So I see no moral decay in the item or in the tool in and of itself, as well as I don't see any moral issues regarding cannabis. I think it's just regarding how you use it, what you use it for, what kind of intent you put behind it. There's definitely cases for privacy coins to be suspect, like, why do you want to hide your identity? Why do you want to hide your transactions? And it's like, hey, man, that's my priority. That's not for you to decide.
And that's the thing. Everybody has to make that decision for themselves.
Liberty, the freedom to do.
So here's where I'm going with this. The legality of what you do, where you are. I'm assuming we wouldn't be having a public conversation if you were at risk of going to prison over this. My question for you is, how does their federal government deal with you? I mean, I can't think of any government that likes the concept of cryptocurrency. Of course, as long as we pay our taxes, that's fine. But their biggest fear is that they may not be able to get their finger all the way up our pocket.
Yeah, for sure. I think the government goes around this very old notion of management that kind of states, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and you can't control it. So what you can't see is, for them, that they're in the status quo. It just makes them fearful of losing that status quo. And you can see that with the Libra project and all the commotion that's been going on around it in the States.
Back up, which commotion?
No, I think, like, if you see in the States, for example, when Bitcoin was out there and all these early cryptocurrencies started going out, like I think the government was kind of dismissive at the beginning, and this is a very small phenomenon. Then it starts gaining traction, and certain legislators started becoming concerned about this. And what I feel is that now that Libra is like something that's backed by something that's even bigger than a government, which is Facebook, I think this is making a lot of legislators nervous. And I think that there's people within Congress in the States that are saying, hey, man, we need to figure this out. You can't go out and just release this. Yeah, you don't know the consequences of it. So I think definitely when a big company like Facebook goes behind a project regarding cryptocurrency, there's a lot of concern in the status quo and in the legislators. That's my take on it, but there might be different perspectives on it. And I think it has to be this too.
What there are, and of course, where we are dictates, what we can do. And I'm very specifically not going to ask any personal finance business because a man's business is his business. I'm trying to keep it general because what I'm looking at is because I've been dealing with cryptocurrency for about, what year is this? 2020? So I'll call it 2012. And one of the things that I got into was when I was in China, I kept hearing about cryptocurrency. I was living in Shanghai, China. And the thing they kept saying about cryptocurrency was that the Chinese government was going to try to kill it, which is normal. The Chinese government kills a lot of things. And I couldn't figure out why there was still so much chatter about it online and everything else. And then I found out the Chinese government couldn't kill it. I found out the Chinese government couldn't stop it. And I said, well, what is this? Because anything that can stop the second most powerful regime on the planet, second only to North Korea, from doing anything, it must be worth looking into. And that's how my journey got started. And I'm a big fan of, I tell people all the time, I told my clients when I was investing for them, doing things like mutual funds, I am a slow old investor. I use something called dollar cost averaging, and I do a very slow, balanced, I don't do any kind of heroic stuff. So for me, I also use buy and hold, meaning people always tell me, oh, Bitcoin is up, Bitcoin is down, crypto is up, crypto is down. I don't know. I buy a little bit when I can. Whenever I get a client, I take a percentage of it and I put it in crypto and I just put it away. I don't have the stomach to just sit there every day and look at how much it is and how much it isn't. Are you a day trader or are you just going to sit and hold it?
I am, at this point in my life, I'm just a sit and hold kind of guy. I do the dollar cost averaging as well. I try to put out a little bit of money. I don't mind what the price is. I just buy periodically and try to create that line of investment so I can take a bit of advantage when it goes up and when it goes down. I'm definitely not a day trader. I tried it for a little while, but I tried learning about graphs and graphical analysis and all this stuff, trying to get an edge. But me personally, regarding my capacity to do it, I just figured this is no different than gambling at this point. So I'd rather trust in technology. I believe it's going somewhere for sure. I don't bet more than what I can bet, but I don't have the stomach for it. I don't have the time for day trading either. And if I've ever been successful on it, it's out of sheer fucking luck. I don't think there's any technical capacity behind it in my regard.
Have you had any formal training?
I have not. I have not actually. My training is in industrial design. This is what I studied, which is very far from what I do now. And everything I've learned through online courses and just self-guided learning. And so something catches my eye. So let's say I got into crypto and I started learning what's a digital curve elliptical algorithm and try to understand like the technical part of it. And just it's things that make me curious, and I delve into them for a little while, and then I kind of lose interest because I understand it to a point where I want to understand it, and I just want to move to something else.
Well, I learned through, online. I'm a big fan of MOOC learning, massive open online courses and classes, and I always talk to people about using those things to give yourself a secret advantage. But one of the things that I did is I studied at University of Nicosia. I wrote an article called Bitcoin's Bloody Battles, and they did a 12-week course, which 50% of which was taught by none other than Andreas Antonopoulos.
I did it through your recommendation as well, actually. When I got it, so I went in and I did it, man. Free course taught by the best. Why the hell not?
Not exactly. And you know what? That's the hustler's mindset. Because he said something funny earlier. He said you spent 10 years trying to get rich quick. I tell people all the time, you can't cheat the game. It doesn't matter if the game is cryptocurrency, old-fashioned investing, fucking beautiful women, lifting heavy weights. Everybody wants to find some kind of a hack. You can't cheat the game. You know, you can cheat it for a short period of time, or you can cheat it, you know, a little bit for a while. But at the end of the day, you got to put in the work. And all the things that I found people try to tell me that would help cheat the game are only things that would help you if you already had the game on control in the beginning anyway. It's like steroids. People think that I can just inject this and inject that, and I'll be Superman. I'll be the next bodybuilder. I'll be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. No, you won't. You'll just be you, only fatter.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
If you don't have a history of exercising, why on earth do you think that this is going to help you? If you do, however, have a history of exercise and gym and athleticism, then it makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference. Like, I found out very quickly why it's illegal in sports. Because in the beginning, I thought, well, is there anything that could really make that much of a difference? Between two average guys, no. But in front of someone who actually is a trained athlete, it makes a lot of difference.
For sure. I think it just gives you that additional edge on that competitive side of it. But I agree, man. Like, if you're going to go out and at the beginning, I believe the hustler's mentality is good, though. Like, trying to cheat. I'll give you an example. When I was younger and I was in school, I always try to cheat. So I was that guy making all the little notes and shit behind my tie and just like on the eraser and stuff like that. And I was so concerned about getting that edge and just trying to cheat it. But then when I got to the fucking exam, like, I had been studying all night, making all this copy, you know? So I didn't really need it, which is kind of insane because while trying to cheat, I was actually learning. So I don't think it's bad trying to cheat the system or trying to get there faster. I just come to a point to accept that it's not going to happen. You know, I'm not magically going to learn. I'm not magically going to become rich. I'm not magically going to become stronger. But I think just trying to get ahead and trying to cut corners is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think that's something that's been frowned upon. And people that are like, just do the hard work. And I'm the total opposite. I like the Bruce Lee thing. Like, be like water. Go with the flow. Water doesn't find the hardest path to go through. It finds the easiest path to go through. And I think going through life is not all about hardship. I think there's definitely a good portion of hardship and dealing with it and being a stoic. But I think, why the hell not? If you can find a faster way to achieve your goals, by all means, go through it.
See, I'm totally the opposite. We both come to our success through very different paths. I very much embraced very young that old-fashioned, grim, stereotypical stoicism. Enjoy the pain. You know, it's the grind. You know, typical of people who do things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Embrace the grind. You know, I'm sweating my face off, getting crushed into the mat just to try to get that one roll and choke him. And it's like, oh, if I have to choose the hard way, I always pick the hard way, and it makes me stronger afterwards. We're probably both right.
No, but I think like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm a big MMA fan, by the way. So that's something we can definitely go into as well. And I enjoy martial arts, and I've practiced a bit of martial arts. But I think jiu-jitsu, like what you see, what the Gracie did, it's if you think about that mentality, he didn't go there and grind. He didn't go there and get pounded by the bigger fucking guy. It was not a David versus Goliath, just like, I'm just going to crash into the stone. It's like, how do I grab his ankle? How do I grab his wrist? How do I grab his arm? How do I defeat this bigger opponent without making all this effort? What's the easiest way I can to win this fight? The only problem is to get to that level, you really need to grind and you really need to discipline. Yeah. And I believe it. And it's the same about getting rich quick. Like, I'm finally getting a bit rich, but it's taken 10 years of trying to get rich quick. You know what I mean? Like, and now I have certain skills that allow me to take advantage of that. And you're totally right, man. You can't cheat the game. There's no way.
Well, my other question to you is, like, tell me about how your company got started.
Okay, so actually this business got started by my business partner, by Asaf. And he's an Israeli national, and he came here to Colombia, and we opened up a design studio like 10 years back, and we've been working on and off together for a long time. And he's what he did was basically, since he had that edge that he spoke Spanish, he spoke Hebrew, he's a great negotiator, he understood the mindset of people in Colombia, he could bridge that cultural mindset in negotiations with Israel and stuff. So he started bringing Israeli companies into Colombia to do business with government and other private entities. And about 3 years ago, we got this crazy legislation that you were able to do business out of cannabis. And he got approached by people who were Jewish origin, and they asked him, "Hey, can you help us out with the license?" And being the guy that he is, he said yes, and started figuring it out later. He got into a bit of a mess at the end of that process. And he knew I was good in operations, and I was a very methodical kind of guy, checklist and stuff. And he said, "Hey man, can you give me a hand taking this one home?" And I said, "Yeah, man, for sure. Why not?" At the time, I was working at a law firm, doing a bit of family wealth planning, doing tax things and stuff like that. And then he got a second client. He invited me again. And then there was this huge rush of people just trying to get into the space, and they were highly liquid, and they were very risk prone. And he told me, "Hey man, you should quit your job. I'm going to make you a lot of money." And I was like, "Well, will this finally happen?" And we started doing it. You know, I quit my job. I moved into this little office with him, and we started grinding. And I just became obsessed with it because that's what I do. I'm an expert at becoming an expert. That's what I really enjoy doing.
I like that phrase.
So I guess that's how we got started. And to be honest, I've been smoking cannabis for a long time now, on and off. But this had nothing to do with activism or the plan. I went into this business for the money exclusively. But then the more you learn about the business and the more you learn about the plan, then the more fascinated you become about the chemistry of it, the potential. And that's what really keeps me going now as well. So that's how we got started, just out of sheer luck, man.
And so you aren't a growing operation. You advise people how to begin a growing operation?
It's I'm not like a lot of people when you see the numbers on these decks, on these investment pitches, like the numbers are insane. They're super insane, and people ask me like, "Hey man, looking at these numbers all day, why haven't you built out your own grow operation?" I was like, "Man, I haven't grown a tomato in my life. I don't pretend to grow 5, 6, 10 hectares of cannabis and do it properly, even if I could become rich." So I try to stick to my guns. I've been doing consultancy for a really long time. I've done consultancy in strategic communication, in public speaking, in negotiation, and business strategy. So I just said, "Hey man, I love the cannabis space, but I don't want to grow. I don't know how to grow anything. I just want to advise people, and my strengths are advising in negotiation and advising in business and then advising in finance." So this is what I like to do. I don't like to play outside necessarily my comfort zone. I like to go into an industry that I really like, and I like to do it with the tools that I already have.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. The internet connection in Colombia.
Okay, you had a bit of a lag. David Pitts is in our chat right now, and he asked, has anyone tried to live off Bitcoin day to day? That's a question I get a lot. I mean, he said groceries, rent, gas, etc.
My take is I think a lot of people have probably tried it. I don't know a lot of them. I don't know how many of them have been successful, but I guess hustlers are all around. Maybe a couple of them have been successful. I think the problem is it's difficult living off cryptocurrencies when you're in a country or you're within an economy that doesn't accept transactions in cryptocurrency. So you can accumulate that wealth, but then you need to turn it to fiat, and then you need to go through all this hustle. So I don't think exclusively. I think it would be very hard.
So here's what I'm going to say. I say I know a lot of people who do it, but the way they do it is they accumulate their cryptocurrency, and then they go to a place like help me, where you can just find where you want to buy. Huh?
Local Bitcoins or just a market?
They'll go to local Bitcoin, find somebody who wants to buy Bitcoin, and just sell it and get cash wherever they are. Yeah. And here in Brazil, and I don't know if you have the same luxury, you can go on local Bitcoin here. and do direct, excuse me, you can go to the bank with someone's bank account number, write it in, anonymously deposit the cash, and buy the Bitcoin, and vice versa.
Well, here the anonymous part of it is the difficult part of it, because every bank transaction, Colombia has a long history of being a money laundering country. It has a lot of history with the drug trade, so we don't get that much freedom of anonymity in that regard. But hey, man, I've dealt with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and cash for a long time, and that's the way I like to do it. So it is a possibility. You can go into local Bitcoins and buy and sell your coins, and if you find something trustworthy enough, then you can do it off.
When you come here, we'll go out, we'll have lunch, and I'll just drive you down to the Bitcoin ATM. I'm not making this up. I'll just drive you down to the Bitcoin ATM, and you can just flash your QR code from your phone, deposit some, withdraw some.
I like that, man. That sounds like the way of the future for sure.
Well, the good thing about Brazil is I genuinely don't think they give a fuck about whether or not, because I don't think it was a money laundering place. And here, there's a phrase that I'm still learning after years of living here, working on. I'm about to have my green card. I'm gonna be here soon. I'm gonna be a Paulistano soon, meaning a citizen of the city and the state. How do I phrase this? They have a phrase here called Jeitinho Brasileiro. It's often used as a insult, but it's kind of like here, there's always a way. Yeah. You always find out there is a way. And this is also a place where your reputation is everything. I mean, if people know you, business here, you can go to the moon and back, because people aren't checking ratings on Yelp for a restaurant. People aren't checking your references on LinkedIn to find out who you are. If they know somebody that knows you and they say, hey, this guy Wateef, he's legitimate. Speaking of which, I got to put my commercial in because I don't do any ad revenue from YouTube or any of that. Just like I told you when we had this conversation, you didn't even know I'm an editor, writer, ghostwriter. A lot of my income comes because someone might write a paper for a university, a newspaper article, a book, a website. If you need that done in university level English, if you need to translate it from another language, I'm the person for you. I do editing, copy editing, proofreading, anything that has to do with the English language. In person, I often work with people from a few different countries. I did it in Brazil for quite a while now. When you do a TED Talk and it's someone who speaks a second language, English is their second language, they've worked with a language coach like me. I'm one of those people that make sure they can speak as eloquently in English as they do in their own native tongue. So everybody has my email address. So if you need me, I'm proud to tell everybody listening that this YouTube adventure I've been on has generated new clients and a ton of new friends. Thank you for all the faith everybody's had in me. To everybody who's done business with me and is continuing to do business with me because they met me here, thank you.
And hey, man, just to add on to that, I believe that the greatest soft skill you can have in your life is communication. Communication skills are everything. I know people with very little talents in anything else, but they're great communicators, they're great storytellers, they're great conversationists, writers, and they get ahead in life with a lot more ease than a lot of other people that have a lot of technical knowledge and a lot of stuff. So please, people, don't disregard this offer. And for sure, like if you want to get ahead in life, get down to communicating properly, writing properly, speaking properly. A lot of people just disregard this kind of thing as something secondary. For me, is the foremost, most vital skill you can ever have. And if you can take that and be a public speaker, you don't know the kind of value that has in a company or in a group of people. And that will make you a leader of men for sure.
Yeah, I do volunteer work sometimes, speaking in front of youth groups, teenagers, people who are young in life, who they want to give an example of business. And it feels good and it matters. What you said about writing and soft skills, I'll tell you what my very first writing job was. Many years ago, before the internet was what it is now, and people just got online with online dating, they would hire me to write their dating profiles, men and women. Back in the day, I would charge $50 a pop to read, and I wouldn't lie, I would just take what they wrote, pull it down, rewrite it, put it back up.
For sure, man. And I think that definitely has a lot of value. And I think it's a proven technique. Like I'm a big fan of the Carnegie courses and Dale Carnegie and things like How to Win Friends and Influence People
Love
and
that
stuff.
book.
That
Love
was one of the first books that changed my life, man. And what he says is like there's simple shit like remember people's names. People love to talk about themselves. Allow for people to talk as well, because being good in communication is not about just being good at talking. It's good at listening. It's good at creating this kind of dynamic that we have right now and that we're creating. And if anyone's like listening to this, is because they enjoy people talking, you know, and they enjoy people exploring ideas and being eloquent about it. Also, my experience, and I think that's the deeper side of communication, like growing up as a really skinny kid, being a victim of bullying and stuff like that when I was really young, I didn't suffer it that much, but I found that the kids that were really aggressive are kids that couldn't communicate properly, that had no other skills to. So it's very difficult for kids that don't get an education in speaking and negotiating to go about their lives. So they resort to violence, they resort to physical intimidation because they have no other skills. So I think this is something that I applaud that volunteer work, because I'm sure if you teach people how to communicate properly and create empathy, you would reduce a lot of violence and you would reduce a lot of conflict for sure.
Yeah, it's scary because I was a kid that got bullied because I was that kid. My parents made sure I could read, write, and speak very well. And I didn't know it then, but as I grew up, I remember coming home from college on one of my holidays and my mom sitting down with me and talking to me about what just happened in the year you're gone for college and explaining things to me about why certain people treated me a certain way. And I found out that almost without exception, everyone who ever bullied me came from a home that had serious problems. I found out one of my biggest bullies was watching his mother die of AIDS our entire high school career. I found out another kid that bullied me, it was in the newspaper of all places, which I don't think should have happened. I had been the victim of horrible sex crimes. All these things that you find out later, well, that's why they were so disgruntled in school and they needed that help. It's
For sure, man. And the way you deal through your problems and the way the mind works is that you need to speak. You need to be able to articulate what you're thinking, just to hear yourself speak sometimes. And that's what therapy is all about. And that's what having good friends is all about, and conversing. It's just about getting to know yourself, getting to know other people, put yourself in perspective, learn. I think communication is by far the greatest skill you can hone in your life. And if you do it properly, you'll be successful as a baker, as a shoemaker, as a big businessman. It doesn't matter what you do. And this is what I tried to tell my clients back when I was coaching in communication. It's like, hey man, your industry has nothing to do with your success. It's the way you go about yourself. Because there are rich bakers, there are rich entrepreneurs, there's rich everything, man. It's not the technical part of it. What differentiates successful people from people that are not basic notions of personal finance and communication. I'm a big proponent of both.
So let me ask you this specifically. If you were going to cut a promo for yourself and what you do, the people listening, why would they call you? Why would they say, I want to find this company and hire this company? What will you do when one of the people in the chat right now calls you and says, hey, I want to get into this business? What can you do for that person from the beginning?
I think the best thing I can do for them is being brutally honest. I think this is the first advantage of working with us is I will not lead you on. I will tell you the truth as I see it and as relative as that is, but I will never egg you on. I'll never invite you to an investment that I don't believe is a good investment. I will never tell you there's no risk associated when I think there's risk association, and I will genuinely try to teach you. And I will try to get you into a space in a way that you're comfortable with regarding your monetary capacity and your risk profile. And I will go out of my way to help you understand what you're getting into, explain to you the risks associated with it, the potential benefits. And if you decide to finally go into it, I will hold your fucking hand, because going into the cannabis space is the equivalent of jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down. And you need a good partner to do that, so you don't crash into the ground.
You know, what you just said, you know, it makes a lot of people feel a little bit more comfortable, especially admitting that it's like jumping off an airplane. It's kind of like what I would talk to my clients about. I would sit down and talk to a guy and say, not only do I want you to entrust your entire company's retirement fund to me to invest, I want 30% of your personal income to invest for you and your family in cash value life insurance and mutual funds. And that look on their face when they understand the positive, but you're still asking somebody to dig deep. And that's,
For sure,
wait,
man.
we got somebody asking, have you been to Barbados?
I've been to Barbados. I have indeed. I was given a conference in Barbados with Cannabis, Jamaica, with a great team of people, and we were there talking about cannabis and cannabis business opportunities. And I met a lot of people there interested in crypto.
Now, small world. You know, I tell people all the time when they say it's lonely at the top, that doesn't just mean you're the only person at the top. Is that you'll see the same faces over and over when you're at the top of your game. You know my friend Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy and I had a bit of a contentious discussion in my last YouTube video. I don't know if you got to see it. I'm going to make sure you check that afterwards. The three of us are going to have a little chat one-on-one. Jeremy's in the chat right now saying, yep, he saw you in Barbados.
Shout out to Jeremy, man. Reach out. We definitely need to do something together for sure.
I love, you know, I remember when I was a kid watching the A-Team, and at the end of some episodes, he'd say, I love it when a plan comes together. I love it when I bring good people together. Like, that makes me feel good. Because as I've traveled the world and I've accumulated skills and talents, one of them has been, I've been able to bring people together, and it's awesome. You know, to just find people and say, hey, you guys are a good fit, and be that conduit between each other. Because I can talk to you and I can talk to him and say the three of us need to talk.
For sure, man. And this is the way business is being. Like, you don't do business sitting on your room alone. You know, right. You do business with people, and you do business meeting with people, and being, for me, one as well, like, I think part of the whole thing about being brutally honest and being a good communicator is also about being vulnerable and just realizing what you don't know and being honest about it. And that creates a sort of comfort. And I really like the Barbados panel because, as I said throughout the conferences that I did in Barbados and Trinidad, is like, I'm really honored to be sitting down with people that know a lot more than me about this. And I'm just here very humbly giving you my perspective on it. And I think that had a very good, reach, that kind of approach. Once you're vulnerable and you're honest, but you're also a go-getter and you're ambitious, I think that's a pretty powerful mix, man.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. That makes me feel good. I'm going to definitely facilitate all of us talking together because when you get a room full of men together that know what they're doing and trust each other's business sense because of a true proven track record, those are the people that can change the world.
And you said something before that regarding Brazil, but I think this stands true all the world around, is your own personal brand, man, your word, just being a man of your word, being a man that says something and does something and keeps true to that and is honest. And like, I'd rather deal with someone that has had failures and they admit they've had failures than dealing with superstars that have never been wrong in their life. They've never gone broke. And because I just don't trust that kind of people. I'd rather trust in people that have had failures. They're honest about their failures. They've learned stuff. And I'd rather move on and do business together with them because I know I can trust them and I know they can be honest with me when the time comes. Because when shit is going good, it's easy. It's super easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy having a business partner. It's easy having a partner in life. But you get a real sense of what people are worth once you're in the shit.
Amen. Amen. Wow. Let me read you something before we sign off, because I don't want to make this one go on too long, and I do want to save some candy for next time. I'm going to read you something because I want your reply, and I'm probably going to take a cut of that reply and make it into another video because I know what I'm going to say, but I want to make sure that I'm giving it a clean reply. So I don't want to tell you what I'm going to say, but I want to hear your opinion first as I read you a letter that I received. Okay?
Go for it, man.
Beginning quote. I need help from you. I've been given the opportunity to buy into a cryptocurrency IPO that is going to be part of a major platform being launched along with it. I don't know anything about the topic. I'm just trying to catch up. So I'm sending you the paper that I was given. There are also 2 TED Talks to introduce people to the concepts. I noticed it's already pyramid scheme, sort of, whereby they get commissions, and they said that if I buy in before the launch, I'll be part of the commission package as well. Every time I bring more people on board, I get a percentage of the tokens sold in each package. There will also be a credit debit card that's associated with a number of institutions, including MasterCard, so that you know you can transfer the crypto into fiat or hard currency. End quote.
Wow, what would I say about that? The first thing I'd say about that is read the damn white paper, man. Like, if you're really trying to catch up, I'm a big proponent of not investing in things you don't fully understand. I think saying that, fuck, that it kind of seems like a pyramid scheme, it's probably not the best starting point when you're talking about an investment. But there might be a confusion there, because I do believe in referral fees, and I do believe in referral schemes and bringing more people into the community. So you really need to understand what the whole thing is about. But if you don't understand the subject matter, if you don't understand the industry, the impact of it, then just take it as gambling, man. Do you have gambling money? Do you feel lucky today? If you're that kind of guy, maybe go for it. But if you're talking about investment and not gambling, get to know your subject matter. Take out, I don't know, a fucking hour of your life if you're going to put money into it. Read the white paper, go into the forums, ask questions, try to understand it. And once you think you understand it, go in slow. Do the dollar cost averaging thing, man. For me, that's the way to go about it.
Thank you. I'm going to get your opinion. I'm going to ask Brother Jeremy Stephen, I'm going to send you this message. I want you to record a few minutes of a reply. And I'm going to give him a few diverse opinions from experienced Bitcoin people. That sounded so presumptuous.
That's not bad, though.
Yeah. You know, I'm arrogant with a lot of things. I just never want to be arrogant with money, because that'll get your pockets turned out. But I want to give him a few different perspectives on cryptocurrency and what I think. Because what I think is that he's trying to make up for lost time. He feels like he's late to the party. And he feels like maybe now he can catch up. And what I try to explain to people, this is back when I had a license investing, you can't make up for lost time, but you can make a good start. A lot of people think, well, if I save twice as much at the age of 40, as opposed to what I should have started saving at the age of 20, I'll make the difference up before I'm 60. But that's actually not how math works.
No.
You know, and what I say is start where you are. I've had other people say, oh, I don't want to invest in the stock market, cryptocurrency, because I already missed the boat. But I said, well, if somebody offered you at a reasonable price some Coca-Cola or some Pepsi, wouldn't you buy some of that? Well, yeah. Well, wait, they've been around forever. They were around before you were born. Don't you feel like you missed the boat on those? So what's the difference? Know what you're investing in, but don't feel like it's like you've missed the boat at any point. You know, if you only put something away and you've only got 5 years, that's 5 years a lot of people don't get. You know, that 5 years of investment might be the difference between, you know, you eating tuna fish while you're old or eating, I don't know, chicken breast. It ain't much better, but compared to the alternative.
And hey, man, I believe that advice you're giving goes out not only for crypto and this FOMO people have. It's like crypto's already this big. Like, man, I didn't get into crypto until it was 2,800. Now it's 10,000. It was at 20,000. People got in at $7. Like, I like this song. It's not a song. It's kind of like a graduation speech that's been musicalized by Baz Luhrmann called "Wear Sunscreen," and it has this quote that says, like, sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself. And I think that applies to everything in life. Working out, like I started working out when I was 28. That might seem like really late for some people, but hey, man, that's where I got started in, and you can reap benefits from it. It's not like I want to become a martial artist, but I'm already 33. Hey, man, if that's your drive, who the hell tells you not to do it? Get started right now where you are. You don't need to have a time machine and travel back in time to get into a good position. Just start where you are. Be driven, be disciplined, and you'll get further than you've ever thought you will get.
Amen. And people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. And it also allows people to be lazy. It allows people to be able to say, well, I can't really do that. You know,
Mhm.
well, you know, that was then, this is now.
Yeah, it gives them a certain sense of comfort that it's externalizing and it's not owning up to yourself. Like, so the circumstances in my life made me poor. The circumstances in my life, I got into this too late. I didn't have a college education. And you can find all sorts of excuses, and it will give you some sort of existential comfort, but it won't get you very far in life, and you will never feel the gratification of just breaking boundaries and doing a lot more than you've ever thought you could, which is, I think, the whole purpose of life.
Amen. Listen, I've got to run because I've got some business to handle and some money to make, just like you. Are we going to do this again, my friend? I want you to become a regular.
For sure, man. I love this conversation, and thank you so much for having me. This is my first experience in this kind of environment. I felt really comfortable, and you're a wonderful person to talk to, and I'm looking forward to doing this again for sure.
Well, flattery will get you everywhere. And I'm going to tell everybody listening, my normal sign off is this. Make sure you like the video. Leave me a comment to tell me what I could have done better or differently. But most importantly, share this video with a couple other people. Share it on one of your timelines. I don't care if it's Twitter or Facebook or wherever. Just say, hey, I listened to this. It was interesting. If they like me, great. If they don't, fine. But that's what's helped me to grow so quickly. And I hope everybody has a good night. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye, brother.